if somebody walks into the hospital, what's your like Cliff Notes version of what a transfer, what information do you take? What do you need to do before you can really do anything to treat the patient? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I can only really speak from my own experience. And the unfortunate thing where I live is that there's totally no connection or communication between home birth midwives and whatever happens in the hospital, because there's been so many bad experiences, like people being sent in by ambulance, or people being sent in and the midwife disappears, or people coming in and they're bleeding heavily and we don't have any information. So there's kind of, not me personally, but the general attitude is one of animosity. And I know that from the midwife side, they've always kind of said, well, if we could work together in some way, but I haven't really gotten from them that they want to work together in a way that makes sense to us as obstetricians. So the unfortunate thing is that it's almost bad from the beginning. There's no like, okay, we'll take over now. Thanks for bringing her in. We see that you realize that when someone's bleeding like this, they need to come in. It's usually not that cozy handoff kind of thing. So that's unfortunate. And in an ideal situation, a midwife would be able to have some contact with someone that's in the hospital and call ahead and say, this is coming. Like, I see this moving in a direction where I think we're going to need to transfer. Let's get ready for that. That would be so ideal, so that someone in the hospital could go, okay, tell me all the things you've done so far. Tell me what's been happening so we can get ready for this person in the hospital. But that just doesn't happen. It's usually an emergent drop off, like the ones that I've personally seen. And I haven't seen one in a long time because I don't do a lot of like on call at the hospital where you take all comers. But I remember when I used to do that, I would have people come in like either in the middle of active labor where you can just see that meconium is streaming, and they've been like this for several hours, and you're trying to get a fetal heart rate with someone who's screaming and you just don't know the story. And you immediately not get angry at the patient, but get angry at the situation, because now it's our liability and our worry about what's going to happen to this patient. So initially, ideally, I would like to get whatever information is available up until that point before it becomes an emergency.
So you're saying that emergencies are always bad.
Well, if someone hasn't realized that something is emergent before the time, like when we're in the hospital and we're on the monitor, we kind of get an idea this is going bad. Like if this person doesn't deliver within a certain amount of time, we label the categories of tracing. Now this is a category 2, which means if you can't resolve it within a reasonable period of time, half an hour, 45 minutes, you're going to have to deliver them by C-section. They don't have that ability at home. So when it's bad, it's already bad. I can't find the fetal heart rate. There's blood pouring. There's meconium pouring. I don't know what the position of the baby is. All of that stuff. It's always bad not to know. And I think I'm even more anxious about that stuff because I'm a planner. I like my patients to be in the hospital before something happens. I like to explain to them, like, you've been pushing for 3 hours and this is probably what the outcome is going to be. Let's have a conversation about that before it becomes emergent. So when you don't have that opportunity for discussion or anything, and you have this initial idea that the midwives have been saying the hospital's a bad place to deliver and they're mean there and they will not respect you, and puts all this stuff in people's heads, they come in, it's hard to, have this collaborative kind of effort, which of course would be ideal.
How do you handle a patient who doesn't realize they're in the middle of an emergency?
Sternly and kindly, if I can. I mean, to say, okay, this is what's happening right now, and explain to them in the most explanatory way. Like, it's not really good that you've lost this much blood, that I can see that you're very pale and your heart is racing. That tells me you've lost so much blood that we need to stop it right now. And this is what I'm going to do that. In emergencies, I have to say, there are a few people, although they still exist, who still refuse. Most people will at that point be kind of panicked and say, do what you need to do. But the unfortunate thing is I have no relationship with them. So how would they know even to trust me? Like, perfect example. The last person I delivered just 2 weeks ago was someone that came into the hospital for an induction, nice labor, epidural, but again, pushed for like almost 4 hours, which is a really long time to push. I don't really like people to push for that long unless I really think there is a light at the end of the tunnel and they're going to eventually deliver. I ended up delivering her with forceps, but she trusted me so much to go through that with her that if I didn't know her, I guess it would be easier for me after 2 hours or no progress after a certain amount of time to just go, this is probably not going to happen. You probably need a C-section, and then just section her and leave that person feeling like everyone just wants to section people, but having that relationship with her was so, so important to allowing things to progress to the point where she said, you've been with me this long. I really trust you. Let's keep going. And she had had a lovely forceps delivery. There's not such a thing, but she delivered vaginally, had a good experience, and felt like I did what she wanted, only because we knew each other well enough to go through that. And when you have an emergency come in or somebody come in who doesn't trust you from the outset, has been told all kinds of things about what happens in hospitals, is convinced that they're going to get bad treatment, has also been convinced kind of to keep things to themselves, not to tell people things when they go in, you're working from a real disadvantage. So you don't have a relationship, you don't know the person, you don't know what's the history, you don't know if you're getting the right information. You kind of have to act on things that I normally would not act on. It's unfortunate.